You know that moment when your husband stumbles in at 3 a.m., drops to his knees in your bedroom, and begs you to forgive him right now because by 10 a.m. this morning, you'll never be able to? Yeah, neither did I. Until last Tuesday. My name's Karina, I'm 42, and I'm an architect in Charleston, South Carolina. Notice I said I'm an architect, not we're architects. That distinction became important about 72 hours ago, when my entire life revealed itself to be a historical restoration project gone catastrophically wrong. And trust me, I know bad renovations. I've been fixing other people's disasters for 20 years. It was March 14th, a Tuesday. The kind of humid Charleston night where the air sits on your chest like a drunk relative at Thanksgiving. I was in bed reviewing blueprints for the Morrison Project, a Federalist-style renovation downtown that was eating our budget like Sherman ate Georgia, when I heard our front door slam hard enough to wake the ancestors buried in Magnolia Cemetery. Heath, my husband of 17 years, partner in our architecture firm, Bennett Design Partners. The man who once cried during our vows at the chapel on Laguerre Street because he was so grateful to marry his soulmate. That Heath. Except this Heath was hammered, like fell up the stairs, knocked over the entry table, accidentally set off the alarm hammered, at 3 in the morning, on a Tuesday. Happy hour with the socios ran late? I called from the bedroom, already annoyed because we had an 8 a.m. presentation with the Gibby's Museum Board. Historic preservation waits for no one's hangover. What happened next should have been my first clue that this wasn't your standard. I had too many IPAs with Brad from Permits situation. Heath appeared in our bedroom doorway, backlit by the hallway light like some kind of drunk, repentant angel. His tie was gone. His Brooks Brothers shirt was half untucked. His eyes were red, and not just from bourbon. Then he dropped to his knees on our Turkish rug, the expensive one we'd bought in Savannah to celebrate our 15th anniversary. Karina. His voice cracked. Baby, I need you to forgive me right now. I sat up straighter, blueprint sliding off the bed. Heath, what? No, listen. He crawled, literally crawled toward the bed. I need you to forgive me now, right now, this second, because at 10 a.m. this morning, he choked on whatever he was about to say. At 10 a.m. you're never going to be able to. My stomach dropped. The architect in me immediately started calculating. Affair with the intern, embezzlement, secret gambling debt, accidentally demolished a historic property, vehicular manslaughter. The options were endless and increasingly creative. What did you do? I heard myself ask, voice surprisingly steady for someone whose marriage was apparently on a timer. Is this about money? Did you sleep with someone? Heath's laugh was the sound of something breaking. I wish it was that simple. Simple? I threw off the covers. Heath, it's 3 a.m. You're drunk. You're being cryptic. And you just told me I have 7 hours before my life implodes. So maybe skip the dramatic buildup and just say it. I can't. He wiped his face with both hands. Iris is going to tell you. She made me promise she could be the one to tell you. My blood went cold. Iris? My Iris? My best friend since we were 16 at Ashley Hall? That Iris? He nodded miserably. And that's when I knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't just bad. It was biblical. See, here's what you need to understand about Charleston society. We're polite. We're civilized. We serve sweet tea and smile while absolutely destroying someone's reputation at the historic Charleston Foundation Gala. We don't do drunk 3 a.m. confessions. We don't do public scenes. We certainly don't combine both with your wife's best friend since high school. Whatever Heath had done, it was bad enough that even he, Mr. Let's keep this professional himself, was breaking every rule of Southern propriety to warn me. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, at his expensive haircut from that place on King Street, at his Patagonia quarter zip, because even Charleston architects are basically preppy, at the wedding ring I'd designed myself, interlocking compass and T-square, because we were going to build our future together. Get out of this bedroom, I said quietly. Karina. Guest room. Now. And Heath? I waited until he looked at me. Whatever happens at 10 a.m. You were right. I'm never forgiving you. He left. I heard him stumble down the hall to the guest room, heard the door close, heard the springs creak as he collapsed onto the bed we kept for his mother's visits. I sat there in the dark of our bedroom in our carefully restored 1890s Charleston single house in the historic district, surrounded by the life we'd built together, and I did what any successful architect does when the foundation cracks. I started planning for the demolition. Because here's what 17 years of marriage teaches you. When someone says, "You can't forgive me yet," what they really mean is, "I'm about to destroy you, and I'm too much of a coward to do it myself." I grabbed my phone, texted Iris. "Heath came home drunk. Says you're telling me something at 10 a.m. What's going on?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Callie's hot little biscuit, 10 a.m. I'm so sorry, Karina." I stared at that message until my eyes burned. Iris never apologized. Not when she borrowed my car and returned it on empty. Not when she forgot my birthday. Not when she accidentally told my mother-in-law about my Botox, which, thanks Iris, made for a delightful Christmas dinner conversation. If Iris was apologizing in advance, this wasn't just bad. This was extinction level. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., turned off the lights, and lay there in the dark, watching the ceiling fan turn lazy circles, counting down the 7 hours until my life ended. Somewhere in Charleston, church bells chimed 4 times. In my head, they sounded like a countdown. 6 hours left. I didn't sleep. Shocking, I know. Who could possibly sleep when their drunk husband just set a doomsday timer on their marriage? Instead, I did what any reasonable architect does at 4 a.m. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started organizing the financial apocalypse. Our joint accounts, our business accounts, every credit card statement for the past 5 years. If Heath had been skimming money for whatever fresh hell awaited me at 10 a.m., I was going to find it before Iris served it to me with a side of biscuits and gravy. By 6 a.m., I'd found it. Or rather, found the holes where it should have been. Monthly transfers, always on the first, always exactly $2,300 for the past 5 years, to an account I didn't recognize. The memo line just said SM, which I'd always assumed was some vendor abbreviation. Stupid materials. Structural maintenance. Something boring and architectural. Turns out SM probably stood for something way less boring, like second mistress, or secret money, or, my personal favorite at that moment, shattered marriage. Do the math. 2,300 times 12 months times 5 years equals $138,000. That's a BMW. That's a kitchen renovation in the historic district. That's my entire retirement contribution for half a decade, just vanishing into SM while I worked 70-hour weeks to keep our firm afloat. I sat there at our farmhouse table, the one we'd refinished together on a weekend in Kiowa Island, laughing about how we were investing in our future, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger yet. Anger comes later. This was the architect in me, coolly assessing structural damage, foundation, compromised, load-bearing walls, non-existent, recommended action, complete demolition. At 7:30 a.m., Heath emerged from the guest room looking like death doing the walk of shame. He found me at the kitchen table, laptop open, coffee cup number 4 growing cold beside me. "Karina, SM," I said pleasantly. "What does SM stand for?" He went pale, like historically accurate Charleston ghost pale. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. I'm sure there's a fascinating explanation for why you've been transferring nearly $2,400 a month to a mystery account for 5 years. I smiled. Southern women perfect that smile early. It's the same smile we use when asking someone if they're feeling okay after they've gained weight. But save it for later. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Iris, remember? She's going to tell me everything you're too much of a coward to say yourself. Heath actually flinched. Good. You should eat something, he tried weakly. How thoughtful. Should I use the joint account? Or has SM already claimed breakfast too? I left him standing in our kitchen and went upstairs to get ready. If I was going to have my life destroyed over biscuits, I was going to look incredible doing it. By 9:45 a.m., I was walking down King Street toward Callie's hot little biscuit, wearing my favorite Tory Burch dress and my closing the deal heels. Other women have armor. I have couture and spite. Charleston was doing its thing. Tourists blocking the sidewalks, horse carriages clopping past, the air thick with jasmine and humidity, and probably my impending nervous breakdown. I passed the shops we used to browse on Sundays, the coffee place where Heath proposed, the art gallery where we'd bought that painting for our 15th anniversary. 17 years of marriage, spread out across 6 blocks like a walking tour of my own destruction. I reached Callie's at 9:58 a.m. Through the window, I could see Iris already there, sitting at our usual table. The one by the window. The one we'd sat at 1,000 times for girl talk and catch-up sessions, and apparently planning how to blow up my entire existence. She looked terrible. Thin. Pale. Her hair, usually this gorgeous auburn that made me jealous in high school, was dull and pulled back. She was wearing a loose sweater despite the humidity. And suddenly, horribly, I knew. The weight loss. The canceled plans over the past few months. The weird texts. The apology. Iris was sick. I almost turned around. Almost walked away. Because if Iris was sick, then whatever she had to tell me was going to hurt worse than any normal betrayal. It was going to hurt with a timer attached. But I didn't leave. Because whatever Southern Belle nonsense my mother raised me with, she also raised me to face things head on. Even when things turned out to be your entire life revealing itself as a lie over artisanal breakfast foods. I walked in. The little bell over the door chimed. Iris looked up and her expression, God, her expression was the worst part, because she looked guilty, and scared, and sad, which meant whatever she was about to say, she already knew it was unforgivable. Karina? She half stood, then sat back down like her legs couldn't hold her. You came. You said 10 a.m. I'm very punctual. I sat down across from her, crossing my legs, channeling every ounce of composure I'd spent 42 years cultivating. You're sick. It wasn't a question. She nodded anyway. How bad? Bad. Her voice cracked. 3 months. Maybe less. 3 months. The same amount of time it takes to design a good renovation. Not nearly enough time to process what was coming. I'm sorry, I heard myself say, which was insane because I could feel the bomb she was about to drop. Could sense it sitting between us like an unexploded grenade disguised as a breadbasket. Don't be sorry yet. Iris reached into her bag, a canvas tote from the Charleston Farmers Market because of course, and pulled out a manila envelope. Thick, official-looking, the kind lawyers use when they're about to ruin your day. She placed it on the table between us like she was laying down a losing hand in poker. That's a copy of my will, she said quietly. Okay? I stared at the envelope like it might bite me, which, metaphorically, it absolutely was about to. I need you to read it later. After. But first, I need to tell you something. She took a shaky breath. I need to tell you about Sylvie. Sylvie. The name landed heavy. Who's Sylvie? My daughter. Iris's eyes filled with tears. She's 5 years old, Karina. She's smart and funny, and she loves dinosaurs, and she deserves better than what I'm about to do to her. 5 years old. My architect brain did the math automatically. 5 years ago. $2,400 a month starting 5 years ago. SM. Sylvie M. something. Iris, I said very, very carefully. Why are you telling me about your daughter? She looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw 17 years of friendship die in real time. Because Heath is her father. The coffee shop kept existing around us. Someone ordered a latte. A tourist laughed at something on their phone. The espresso machine hissed like a snake. And I sat there, across from my best friend of 26 years, processing the fact that she'd been sleeping with my husband and had his child. Say something, Iris whispered. I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who'd been my maid of honor. Who'd held my hand through 3 failed IVF cycles. Who'd brought wine and tissues every time the doctor said, I'm sorry, the embryo didn't take. Who'd listened to me cry about how much I wanted to be a mother, and how my body just wouldn't cooperate. That woman had been having my husband's child while I was grieving the ones I couldn't have. Where? I asked calmly. Too calmly. The kind of calm that precedes Category 5 hurricanes. What? Where do you live with my husband's daughter? Somerville. She said it so quietly, I almost didn't hear. The townhouse on Oakmont Drive. The one with the blue shutters. I finished. Because of course I knew it. Keith had shown me listings there 2 years ago, said he was helping a client look at investment properties. I'd even given him advice on which units had better natural light. I'd helped my husband pick out the love nest for his second family. The laugh that came out of me wasn't sane. It was the sound of 17 years of marriage revealing itself as a performance piece titled Karina, the Idiot. Karina, does she look like him? I cut her off. Sylvie, does she have Heath's eyes? His smile? Does she call him Daddy? Iris's face crumpled. He sees her every Wednesday and Saturday. Says he has site visits Wednesday and Saturday. Every single week. For 5 years. While I worked late at the office, while I attended client dinners alone, while I made excuses to our friends about why Heath couldn't make it to dinner parties. And you, my best friend. You looked me in the eye at brunch and book club and my birthday dinners and never said a word. I wanted to, she said desperately. So many times. But you didn't. I leaned forward. You know what's fascinating, Iris? I'm an architect. I spend my life looking at structures, finding the weak points, understanding how things collapse. And I never saw this. Never saw that my entire life was built on a foundation that didn't exist. She was crying now. Full-on sobbing into napkins from the dispenser. People were starting to stare. I need you to understand something, she managed. I'm dying, Karina. In 3 months, Sylvie won't have a mother. And that's tragic, I said flatly. Genuinely tragic. But what does that have to do with me? She pushed the envelope closer. I want you to raise her. The world tilted. Excuse me? You always wanted children. You couldn't have them. And Sylvie, she needs a mother. Someone stable and smart and… Let me get this straight. I was genuinely amazed. The audacity was so breathtaking it could have won architectural awards. You have an affair with my husband. Have his child. Let me pay for that child's existence with my own money. And now you want me to raise her because you're dying? You'd be perfect. I'd be perfect? My voice rose. The espresso machine couldn't compete. Iris, I can't even look at you right now without wanting to throw this table through the window. You think I'm going to play mother to the living proof that my husband and my best friend betrayed me? She's innocent, Iris said desperately. She didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I. The table shook. Coffee sloshed. I didn't ask to be infertile. I didn't ask to spend $140,000 on IVF treatments that failed. I didn't ask for my husband to create a child with someone else while I was crying myself to sleep every month. And I definitely didn't ask to be treated like some kind of consolation prize caretaker, because the actual mother inconveniently got cancer. The coffee shop had gone silent. Everyone was staring. I didn't care. I stood up, grabbed the envelope, and looked down at Iris, at my former best friend, at the woman who was dying and desperate and had just asked me to do the impossible. I hope your remaining months are peaceful, I said quietly, but leave me out of them. I walked out of Callie's Hot Little Biscuit and made it exactly 4 blocks before I had to sit down on a bench outside the old Slave Mart Museum. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sitting in front of a building that commemorated one of humanity's greatest betrayals while processing my own. That's when the rage hit. Not the sad anger or the shocked anger. The cold, calculating architectural anger that sees a problem and starts drafting solutions. I opened the envelope, read Iris's will. She'd named me as guardian. Had actually written my name into a legal document assuming I'd just accept this. Assuming that 17 years of friendship trumped 17 years of betrayal. But here's what Iris forgot. I don't just design beautiful buildings. I also know exactly how to tear them down. I called my lawyer. Actually, I called the lawyer, Daphne Moreau, the attorney who'd handled the Richardsons' divorce last year when he got caught with the tennis instructor. The woman had left him with his car and his dignity. Not even his dignity, actually. Just his car. Daphne? It's Karina Bennett. I need to file for divorce, and I need to destroy someone financially and legally in the process. Infidelity? She sounded intrigued. Secret child, 5 years of financial fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty as business partner. Possibly more once we dig. South Carolina is a fault state, honey. We're going to eat him alive. How soon can you get to my office? 20 minutes. I hung up and called our accountant, then our business attorney. Then I went home, packed a bag, and checked into the Bellman Charleston Place, the fancy hotel downtown where we'd spent our wedding night 17 years ago. If Heath wanted a second family, he could have the house. I'd take everything else. Over the next 3 days, I became a machine. Daffodge documentation of every penny Heath had transferred. Every Wednesday and Saturday he'd claimed to be at site visits. Every lie about late meetings and client dinners. We found more. So much more. He'd been using company funds to pay for Sylvie's private preschool. Had claimed her medical expenses as business deductions. Had even bought Iris's townhouse through our company as a rental property investment that never saw a tenant. The fraud was so extensive it was almost impressive. Almost. Daphne smiled like a shark when I showed her everything. Karina. South Carolina judges don't like adultery. They really don't like financial fraud. When we're done, Heath's going to wish he'd just been honest. But here's the thing about revenge. It's not about anger. It's about architecture. You don't just knock things down. You plan carefully. You find the load-bearing walls. You calculate exactly where to strike so everything collapses at once. Heath had built himself a perfect little secret life in Somerville. Wednesday and Saturday visits. Monthly support payments. A whole second existence 20 minutes from his real one. I was going to demolish it so thoroughly that archaeologists wouldn't find the rubble. Turns out, destroying someone's life is remarkably similar to renovating a historic property. You need permits, documentation, and the ability to explain to various authorities exactly why this structure needs to come down. Lucky for me, I had 17 years of receipts. The divorce filing hit Charleston society like Sherman's second march. Daphne didn't just file papers, she submitted a 47-page complaint that read like a crime novel. Adultery, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriation of marital assets. Each charge documented with bank statements, calendar receipts, and my personal favorite, a sworn affidavit from the director of Sylvie's preschool confirming that Mr. Bennett paid tuition from our business account. Heath's lawyer, some guy named Preston who probably played golf at the country club, tried the usual moves. Let's be reasonable. Think of your shared business. This could be settled amicably. Daphne's response was a work of art. My client spent $140,000 trying to have children while your client was having them with her best friend. Amicable left the building 5 years ago. See you in court. South Carolina judges, it turns out, are not fans of men who commit fraud to fund secret families. Especially not Judge Patricia Morrison, no relation to our business or the Morrison project we'd been working on, but definitely related to every sense of Southern moral outrage that makes this state function. The preliminary hearing was May the 2nd, a Tuesday, 7 weeks after the Callie's revelation. Heath showed up in his best suit, looking like he thought charm would save him. It didn't. Judge Morrison reviewed Daphne's documentation for exactly 12 minutes before looking up over her reading glasses. Mr. Bennett, you used marital and business funds to support a child conceived during your marriage, enrolled said child in private school using company finances, purchased property through your jointly owned business for personal use, and maintained this deception for 5 years? Heath opened his mouth. His lawyer touched his arm. Smart man, that Preston. Your Honor, my client is prepared to make restitution. I'm sure he is. Now that he's been caught. Judge Morrison was not impressed. Mrs. Bennett, your attorney has requested a preliminary injunction freezing business assets pending full forensic accounting. I'm granting that request. Mr. Bennett, you're hereby barred from accessing business accounts, making any significant financial transactions, or disposing of marital property. We'll reconvene in 30 days for full proceedings. Heath went pale. Without access to business accounts, he couldn't pay Iris's medical bills, couldn't pay Sylvie's preschool, couldn't maintain the perfect little setup he'd built in Somerville. I felt nothing. That's what people don't tell you about revenge. It's not hot and angry. It's cold and systematic. It's spreadsheets and legal briefs and watching someone realize they've been outplayed. We left the courthouse. Heath tried to corner me in the parking lot. Karina, please. Iris is dying. What Sylvie needs, I said evenly, is a father who didn't commit fraud. Unfortunately, she got you instead. My sympathies. You're punishing a child. No, Heath. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. I clicked my car remote. Oh, and FYI, the firm is being dissolved. Daphne's filing the paperwork tomorrow. Bennett Design Partners is over. You can keep your half of whatever's left after we settle the fraud charges. I'm taking my half of everything else. His face did something complicated. You can't just dissolve our business. Actually, I can. Fraud invalidates our partnership agreement. My attorney explained it very clearly. Something about breach of fiduciary duty making the contract void. I smiled. That Charleston smile. The one that looks sweet and means destruction. You should have read the fine print when we formed the LLC, honey. I drove away and left him standing in the parking lot of the Dorchester County Courthouse, probably realizing that his perfect double life had just become a very expensive single one. The forensic accounting took 6 weeks. By mid-June, we had the full picture. Heath had diverted nearly $200,000 total. The IRS was interested. The South Carolina bar was interested. Turns out using business funds for personal expenses is frowned upon when you're signing legal documents claiming otherwise. Our clients were less interested in explanations and more interested in finding new architects. The Morrison project went to our biggest competitor. The Gibby's Museum found someone else. Within 2 months, Heath's professional reputation was radioactive. Meanwhile, Iris's 3-month estimate turned out to be optimistic. She died on June 18th, a Saturday. Exactly 3 months and 4 days after she'd destroyed my life over biscuits. I didn't go to the funeral. Sent flowers with a card that said, "I'm sorry for your loss, because I'm not a monster." But I wasn't going to stand in a church and pretend we'd been friends. Grief is complicated, but boundaries are simple. What I did do was show up at the reading of her will. Iris's sister Maeve was there, her parents, Heath, looking like he'd aged a decade, and me, because apparently Iris had insisted I be present for the reading, even though I'd explicitly told her to leave me alone. The lawyer, some estate attorney from Somerville, cleared his throat. Ms. Cooper's will initially named Karina Bennett as guardian of her daughter Sylvie. However, a codicil was added 2 weeks before her death, changing the designation. I looked up sharply. Iris had changed her will? Ms. Cooper named her sister, Maeve Cooper, as Sylvie's legal guardian, with the following note. Karina was right. I asked too much. Maeve will give Sylvie the stable home she deserves. To Karina, I leave my apology and the truth. You were the better friend, and I was the terrible one. The room was silent. Maeve looked at me across the lawyer's conference table. She had Iris's auburn hair, but none of her audacity. Karina, I know this is complicated, but I want you to know I had no idea about any of it, and I'm sorry. Thank you, I managed. Because what else do you say? Will you stay in Charleston? No, I'm in Asheville. Have a house there, good schools. We'll move Sylvie up next month. She hesitated. If you ever want to see her, I don't, I said gently. But I hope she has a beautiful life. None of this was her fault. I left before anyone could say anything else. Walked out into the June humidity and got in my car. My new car, a Tesla I'd bought with my half of the liquidated business assets, and drove back to Charleston, to my new condo in the French Quarter. My new life. My new everything. Heath was living in a rental on James Island, working for someone else's firm at half his former salary. The divorce was finalized in August. I got the house, sold it immediately, and donated half the proceeds to an infertility support charity. The other half went into my retirement account. By September, I was already getting calls from former clients. Apparently, being the wronged party in Charleston's juiciest divorce scandal comes with unexpected benefits. Like everyone wanting to hire the woman who took down her cheating husband with nothing but spreadsheets and spite. I started my own firm, named it Bennett Design. Just Bennett. No partnership, no shared accounts. No one to betray me with my best friend while I was at client meetings. It's December now. 9 months since my life exploded over artisanal biscuits. 9 months, which I've learned is exactly how long it takes to birth a completely new existence. People ask me all the time how I'm doing. Charleston loves its gossip, and apparently I'm the year's most entertaining topic. The woman who took down her husband with spreadsheets. The architect who demolished her own marriage with the same precision she'd use on a condemned building. The truth? I'm doing better than fine. Bennett Design is thriving. Turns out, women going through divorces love hiring the architect who won hers so decisively. I've designed 4 kitchen renovations, 2 whole house remodels, and I'm consulting on a historic preservation project in Savannah. The irony of preserving other people's histories while demolishing my own isn't lost on me. My new condo in the French Quarter has 14-foot ceilings, original heart pine floors, and absolutely no memories of Heath. I drink my coffee on the balcony every morning and watch tourists stumble down the street, and I feel nothing but gratitude that my life isn't a museum to someone else's lies anymore. Heath, from what I hear through Charleston's very efficient gossip network, is doing exactly as well as he deserves. His new employer treats him like what he is, a talented architect with catastrophically bad judgment. He sees Sylvie every other weekend when Maeve brings her down from Asheville. I've seen them exactly once, at the farmer's market on Marion Square. We didn't speak. What would we even say? I do think about Sylvie sometimes. She's 6 now. Probably lost her first tooth. Maybe learned to ride a bike. Living a life in Asheville that has nothing to do with the chaos her parents created in Charleston. I hope Maeve is good to her. I hope she never knows the full story of how her existence detonated someone else's life. That's a burden no kid should carry. As for Iris, I've made peace with the fact that I'll never fully make peace with Iris. She was dying and desperate, and she asked the impossible. She was also my best friend who betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. Both things are true. Humans are complicated like that. Even the dying ones. Especially the dying ones. Someone asked me at a Christmas party last week if I'd ever trust anyone again. I told them the truth. I trust myself. I trust that I can survive anything now. I trust my ability to look at a situation, assess the damage, and figure out the reconstruction plan. Everything else is negotiable. The question I get most often, though, is whether I'm angry. Whether I'm bitter, whether I lie awake at night plotting further revenge or drowning in grief. And here's the thing people don't understand about revenge. It's not an ongoing subscription service. You don't keep paying for it monthly. You execute it once, thoroughly, and then you move on. Anger is exhausting. Bitterness takes too much energy. I'm 42 years old. I own a successful business, and I have exactly 0 time to waste on people who proved they weren't worth it. Did I love Heath? Yes. For 17 years, I built my entire life around a man I thought was building his around me. Did it destroy me when I learned the truth? Absolutely. For about 72 hours, I was annihilated. But then I did what architects do. I looked at the rubble and started drafting plans for something better. The best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. It's not even the legal victories or the financial settlements. The best revenge is building a life so good that your betrayers become irrelevant to it. Heath isn't my villain anymore. He's just a guy I used to know who made catastrophically bad choices. That's his problem, not mine. I went to an infertility support group meeting last month. First time I've talked about the IVF failures with anyone besides doctors and Heath. Sat in a circle with 8 other women who understood what it's like to want something so desperately and have your body refuse to cooperate. We didn't talk about my divorce or Iris or Sylvie. We just talked about grief and loss and moving forward. One woman asked me if I still wanted children. I thought about it, really thought about it. And I realized I wanted the idea I had 17 years ago of what my life should look like. The husband, the kids, the family portraits in matching outfits, the whole Charleston society package. Now, I want my company to expand. I want to design buildings that last longer than marriages. I want to wake up every morning in my own space, answer to no one, and build something that's entirely mine. Some people might call that settling. I call it architecture. You work with the materials you have. You adapt to site conditions. You create something beautiful from the circumstances you're given. My life didn't turn out the way I planned. It turned out better, because it's completely, authentically, undeniably mine. And if there's a blueprint for surviving betrayal, that's it. Build something so solid that no one else's lies can knock it down. Charleston keeps spinning. The tourists keep coming. And I keep designing spaces for people who are ready to renovate their lives. Turns out, I'm pretty good at that.